Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. I'm Martin Warwick, I'm the editor-in-chief here. We're at the Tech Mahindra's Network Services Conclave 2016. I've never been to a conclave before, I've been to symposia and things like that, but a conclave, I thought they did that in the Vatican. But we also do it in The Hague, which is where we are. We're here in The Hague in the Netherlands, and we have a 3-on-1 panel discussion now for you. 3 guests here, all of whom are extremely welcome. 2 of which I've met before and 1 in the middle we haven't. We'll get to you all in a moment, but so let's kick off. Way over there in the distance on my far left is Petar Torre, who is the lead architect at Intel in telco infrastructure sections. On his right is Remko Helwerda, who is strategic consultant at KPN, the Dutch provider, service provider and telco. And on my left, an old friend, Manish Singh, who is VP Product Management, SDN and NFV at Tech Mahindra. Gentlemen, you're all very welcome indeed. Great to see you and thanks for giving us the time. I'm going to start with you, Manish, as you thought I might have done. The theme, almost the mantra, if you could say that, for today's event and for the 2 events you've had previously in Pune and also in San Francisco, is RCG, which is Run Better, Change Faster, Grow Greater. Why have you adopted that as, not quite a mantra, but you know what I mean, as the message you're trying to get over in the shortest number of words possible? What does it mean and why?
Well, so I think in the simplest terms, we've tried to capture the state of the industry and what are some of the challenges and opportunities that the industry faces. From a, simply put, our strategy and transformation, network transformation imperatives can be captured in run better, change faster, grow greater. Run better is all our service offerings are focused around building solutions and bringing solutions and competencies to the service providers to deliver operational excellence, to really help them, operationally achieve excellence for their current mode of operations, but also gear up for future mode of operations. From a change faster perspective, we've focused on bringing best-in-class technologies to really help network transformation, top of the list, SDNFV, narrowband IoT, mobile edge computing. And then from a grow greater perspective, all those things, run better, change faster, should lead to something bigger, which is all about revenue growth. This is where smart cities, connected solutions, IoT and all, to really bring that next revenue growth to the service provider. So hence it's run, change and grow.
Thank you. Remko, over to you. You're a strategic consultant at KPN. We know that KPN's sort of message at the moment is something not dissimilar to what Manish has just been talking about. What's your take on it? What's the difference and where are you in terms of transformation of the network?
Yeah, well, we are changing really very rapidly as a company. Last years we have been putting a lot of money into strengthening the basis of the company, putting a lot of money in networks and improve those like 4G and fiber to the home and upgrading copper. And now we really made, a year ago we made really change to say, no, okay, we have done enough for strengthening, now we have to really we have to look forward, innovate. So there we changed in things like that. We took a decision which is quite untypical for us to roll out LoRa, a LoRa network for IoT, and not wait for standardization, but just go for it. And that's just one example. But we have to change more. New technologies are coming, like SDNFV, and they are going to change our company quite a lot. The way we work, the competence we need, the skills we need, all that kind of things. And I think it's very important, and that's something else we recognize as a company. We have to be very customer-oriented, maybe more than we have ever been. Because customers demand things, demand more things, demand them faster. So we have to listen more to our customers. And so we last year we made a sort of new mission, a why statement of KPN. Why are we here? Why are we there for our customers? And that's that we want to make life for our customers easier, nicer, more simplified by connecting them to each other and to everything.
But simplification of a network by whatever means, and it is the transformation and the move from hardwired
Yep.
to the virtual is by its very nature intensely complicated, not just in terms of the technologies, but also in terms of the organisational psychology, mindsets of people and everything else. How's that going?
Well, to be frank, we are struggling with it. It is difficult. What happens really with SDNFV, with those new technologies, is that it's really coming together of a technical infrastructure, a telecoms infrastructure, and IT at the other side. And those were different worlds in the past, in the world, but also within KPN. And now they suddenly are becoming one sort of domain. And by the way, we merged fixed and mobile, because that's convergent as well. So we are merging all kinds of things, of domains which were, in the past they were separate, and now they are suddenly, we're talking about the same thing. So we talk about cloudification, and then, cloudification of the network. So we don't buy a router anymore, no, we buy a software package. Well, we're not there yet, but that's where it's going. That really means that we have to work together in a different way. We need other competence, we have other skills. We need to really work in a different way with our partners. We need more partners, in fact, because we cannot do it all ourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peter, over to you. You've been sat there very patiently. You are obviously deeply involved in NFV yourself as well, and SDN. One of the things you said to me off camera is that we were talking about system integrators and the need to keep NFV open. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I'm privileged to go and travel different countries and work with different, on our side, account teams covering all the telecoms worldwide. And it's interesting to observe how all the different environments, technical architecture, but process changes and organizational changes, how this adoption and transformation happens. And it is, on one side, it is technically complex. Organizational process changes, this is a difficult thing regardless of the topic. On the other side, it's very simple. So if design principles are well understood, internalized, agreed, and everybody understands why they need to keep to that, then they simply continue working towards that, and this allows them to cut some tough decisions that otherwise it's very confusing in the old way of doing things. And this brings us to different examples of how NFV gets adopted and deployed. And the more, let's say, progressive way, the more disaggregated way of separating hardware from virtualization platform, from VNFs, from orchestration, and having this whole thing properly disaggregated throughout the network, throughout, let's say, the SDNFV and mobile edge computing and all the other ways of doing that, actually comes to huge integration effort. So this is way harder to do than the older way of how we were all used to do these things, where everything gets properly integrated and adopted in rather an easy way. So then the question is, who does this whole integration effort? And it's great to see companies like Mahindra stepping up, building the practices, dealing with partners. This is simply critical for doing it that way.
You say you're privileged to go around and see these things happening. Have you seen great efforts and great successes and total disasters as well?
We saw the efforts, of course, yes is the short answer. We saw all of the above. Mm-hmm. So when, and the learning from why things go well and faster progress are based pretty much on design principles. They're not based on how big is somebody or how committed top of the companies or skilled engineers. So if the design principles say, for example, good one is saying, okay, we don't know how this blueprint looks 3 years from now. We don't have 100 pages, everything sorted out, but we are going in this direction. We will figure it out and we will get all our skills up to date and do the right changes. These type of people make progress. And somebody studying this thing many years out and tries to get it right now, well, obviously spend a little more time in the studying stage.
Yeah.
So
Manish, it's got to come to you now, obviously. We're talking about systems integrators. How are you finding it within Tech Mahindra? Peter was very complimentary to you then in the way you approach things. Has it been difficult for you, for the company, to come to terms with the fact that it's a changing world and you're very much a catalyst in this? How hard has it been?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, we, from a Tech Mahindra standpoint, we see this as a strategic opportunity to really step up and really work with the industry, work with the ecosystem, and work with the service providers to really help them achieve the transformation objectives and goals that they are embarking on. I think the need for transformation is well established. The technology components are here and now. Now the question is, how do we put them together and really cross the chasm from taking these components and get them deployed into the real networks and operationalize them. And towards that, from a Tech Mahindra perspective, within our network services group, we have very strategically focused on really bringing that skills, that scale, and a number of solution offerings, productized offerings like in San Francisco, we announced BNF Exchange. That's one of the productized solution offering that we're putting in place, working with our ecosystem partners, geared towards system integration, geared towards accelerating testing, more importantly, geared towards certification. And what all of that can be summed up into is how do we really speed up? How do we accelerate this network transformation? So we see this as an opportunity. We think there is a very critical role for us as a systems integrator to play. And last but not the least, we'll probably touch upon this, is also the role of open source. How do we make sure that the service providers become comfortable in leveraging open source into their solutions, operationalizing them, and really get them deployed into their network. So I think there's, again, another critical area where we are focusing on.
You preempted my next question, so I'll pass it on, straight like a hot parcel, straight down to Remko. Remko, a lot of the change, the transformation networks is predicated on partnerships that didn't used to exist before, ecosystems, etc. Is that exactly what you're seeing, and is it a particularly difficult process to manage? Because in many cases, I don't know whether this is true of KPN or not, but certainly many service providers are perforce working with other companies that once were mortal enemies. You wouldn't have worked with them, you wouldn't have cooperated with them, you wouldn't have collaborated with them. Has that changed? And is that part, you're the strategic consultant, is that part of a coherent strategy, or does it happen willy-nilly and you say, well, we've got to do this?
There are two movements which are a bit of sort of going against each other. At one side, we see a convergence of different areas, like fixed and mobile, like IT and TI. And what we saw as a company, we saw then, okay, we have a lot of partners and suppliers in these different domains. And if you have less domains, then maybe you should have not so many suppliers and partners. Because, well, if it's one thing, then maybe you need one supplier or maybe two, but not five. So what, at one side, we are in a process of consolidating our supplier landscape. So less partners, that's one movement. And at the other side, especially when you look at, for example, like IoT, we are experimenting with finding new partners to do new applications. So it is, at one side you see a sort of consolidation, on the other side a sort of proliferation. Is proliferation the right word? Yeah, I think so. Of partnerships. And so it is difficult to manage then, of course.
It's a hard circle to square, isn't it?
Yeah. And also within the company, of course, because of this convergence, people have to work together in a different way. We're just saying about languages and that people should understand the same framework. What we found out is that our IT people and the network people, they talk different languages. And they have different standards and different frameworks of thought. And when you then say, okay, but now we are going to do virtual data centers and we're going to do virtual networks and things like that. So we try to bring those people together. And the funny thing is that they have sort of frameworks that if you look from a distance, they look very similar. The orchestration part and the layers of virtual machines and things like that. We did that in the IT already for 10 years, but now we are doing that also in the network side. Okay, but if you look close, then they are a bit different. And so there were quite some discussions on how to deal with that. And also, what is then the best partner for us to help us in those different layers? Mm. So I think how do you orchestration? That's quite a question. So yeah, what we're doing in fact is that we do a lot of pilots. We do proof concepts. So it's one thing that a supplier says, oh, we have great solutions on PowerPoint. So, but then does it really work? So we invited several partners saying, okay, well, let's come here and put your stuff here in the laboratory, and then we'll see whether it works or not. So that's things that we're doing.
Were there any surprises?
Yeah, of course there were surprises in the sense that some people, some partners came up with solutions which really, in fact, didn't work or didn't scale or had flaws in it.
Yeah.
And we were surprised by others who, which were great solutions. Yeah. So
good.
yeah.
Can we move on? You mentioned, sorry, Peter, do you want to say something?
So now most of the service providers are at the stage of, so they did proof of concepts, they're doing pilots, they're doing deployments, and they're doing a lot of the onboarding. So we were here in The Hague maybe 5 weeks ago, and it was a very popular topic that the onboarding of VNFs is super difficult. Mm-hmm. And so these type of things, I mean, this has its root cause in software architecture of these VNFs not being properly re-architected and so on. So now we are at the stage where these type of difficulties get understood. Mm-hmm. There is huge demand to the VNF vendors to go and fix this type of things. Mm-hmm. Some other things are popping up, like all the licensing and how to get this proper orchestration, automation, scale out. These things get understood now. Mm-hmm. There is demand to fix it, and I mean, we are also working on a lot of this enablement. This exchange effort with pretty much certification of these things is going to help. So these things are getting sorted.
Yep, that's right.
So the onboarding, Manish, of VNFs is super difficult. How can Tech Mahindra help there?
So, great question. Rather, let me just share a little bit more about the BNF Exchange. Mm-hmm. So, we launched this along with our partners, including Intel and others who joined us in this effort, where we're doing few key things. Number one is what we call as the VNF certification, VNF design certification, which is really going back to what Petar said, which is really looking at it from a scalability perspective, elasticity perspective, really looking at is it really cloud native efficiencies of understanding the efficiency of the VNF itself. That's one piece. Then the second piece that the exchange is focused on is full stack certification, which includes the infrastructure, includes the VNFs, and we're working towards that. The third piece in there is very specifically focused on VNF benchmarking, because I think that's another very key piece that, again, from small POC standpoint, it wasn't really necessarily the focus, but now again, as we start to get these to deployments at scale, efficiency becomes important. So that's the third piece. And the fourth thing that we're focusing on is on VNF onboarding. That's a very key piece, as Petar said. I was here with him as well at layer 1, 2, 3, and that was what we were definitely listening from the service providers. And one thing I would say that we do good at Tech Mahindra is we listen to our customers and we come up with solutions. So that's definitely one of the key areas we're focusing on as part of our BNF Exchange.
Well, that's three of you, because I'm sure you all listen. It's the action that follows the listening that counts, isn't it?
And that's why the initiative around BNF Exchange is in action now. Yeah.
We haven't got a lot of time left, and I want to move on briefly to a big subject, but we haven't got much time to discuss it, which is IoT, of course. Traditional service providers find themselves in a bit of a bind in that their traditional revenues from voice, so on, is drying up. It's either flatlining or it's in decline, quite severely in decline in some places, and they're very anxious to find new revenue streams to fill that space. And one of them is perceived to be IoT. But IoT seems to be all things to all men. What is one company or one person's idea of what IoT is completely different to somebody else's. A couple of minutes each, no more than that, if you would. What's your ideas of what IoT is? And do you think traditional type service providers, not the OTT players, we know they can do it, do you think that the traditional players are agile and capable enough, even with the new technology, to be able to capitalise on IoT before the OTT players and the big West Coast players eat their lunch?
I'll probably just start with, and I'll keep it very simple. I think, to your point, IoT is a massive opportunity, and it means different things to different people, and it creates different opportunities for different folks. I think my view is, from a service provider perspective, there are two key things that really are where they shine. Number one is latency. IoT applications that are latency sensitive, especially this is where mobile edge computing becomes very interesting. Yeah. What can the service providers do, and how do they really deliver a higher value solution for those latency sensitive applications? Extreme of that is an autonomous self-driving car, and there are many others in that. The second one is high availability. IoT applications, this is where industrial IoT and applications that come in that really require a much robust infrastructure, that have much higher demands on the network. That again becomes a very critical opportunity. Again, on the very extreme end of it is what I would put as telemedicine. But there are many other applications within the industrial IoT realm if you explore. Those are the areas which are very well suited for the service providers to really go and deliver higher value solutions and monetize their networks better.
Thank you. Remko.
Yeah, I agree with that. What we can bring as a telco, as a service provider, a network provider, is that combination of the network and the application, and make sure that latency is there and is low and is arranged and the guarantees are there. Yeah. That is something we can do where over-the-top players may not be so well equipped to do that, because they then have to depend on a network which is not theirs. Having said that, yeah, okay, then still we have to be agile and really go for it before others do it, of course. So that was one of the reasons KPN just took the decision to roll out a LoRa network, where we knew that, okay, we could wait for standardization for IoT networks to take place, and we just said, no, well, we'll just go for it, just on a Dutch base, and we'll see where it ends. Whether we have to integrate it later in 5G or whatever, we'll see then when it comes there. By now, at least we are in the market with partners doing stuff, doing interesting applications, like in Holland, Connected Cow. Jos Varwerk also mentioned it this morning. By the way, IoT means different things. I think there are two main areas. That is smart home at one side and, well, IoT in the open at the other side. Yep. LoRa is meant for IoT across the country. Smart home is completely, of course, different game. And both, I think in both areas we should take, we try to play a role. And of course we are not going to do that, we are never going to be a monopoly ever again. So there will be other partners and other competitors doing things there as well, of course.
Thank you. Peter, your last but by no means least.
Those are great insights. I'm not going to repeat any of that. So the challenges are known since we used to call it machine to machine in telco world. The idea of how to build services faster and how to open to partner ecosystems. Yep. So this thing stayed, and we can still all practice on how to be better on that. The strategic differentiation of location, and I would also mention brand and so on, recognition in the country. These things with network transformation become another location, more agile thing that works towards telco benefits.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We're out of time, so gentlemen, Peter, Torre, Remko, Helwerda, I think I've got that right. And of course, Manish Singh, thank you very much indeed. Really insightful stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.